Madam, esteemed dignitaries, guests, ladies and gentlemen. A very warm welcome to all of you on behalf of the organizing team. I'm Dr. Jyoti. I work for a World Bank project in Assam Water Resources Department, and I'm pleased to be your host today for this engaging session on leveraging MDB resources to unlock opportunities for the private sector. It is a pleasure to see such an distinguished gathering of experts and leaders from various sectors of development finance, policymakers, industry leaders, and public representatives. In this session, we will explore how the multilateral development banks can drive and support investments in infrastructure development and private sector. Please join me in welcoming Secretary, Externally Aided Project Cell, Government of Assam, Dr. Jeevan Basavaraj. Dr. Jeevan will set the tone for today's session. Please welcome Dr. Jeevan.
Distinguished panelists, esteemed guests, ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to this pivotal session on opportunities for the private sector at the second Advantage Assam Summit today. Today, senior Assam is at a critical juncture in its development journey with total state is pursuing growth of the vital sectors. The nearly doubling of EAP expenditure year on year, 2 years, demonstrates the accelerating of your comprehensive development strategy, bridging the development deficit across various sectors. Organizations like ADB, World Bank, AIB, NDB are providing support from public sector, transport, and urban infrastructure to power, energy, and options extend beyond mere financing, encompassing institutional strengthening, policy, and integration of crucial safeguards related to environment and social impact, climate resilience, and also inclusive. This session focuses on unlocking the vast potential for private sector engagement in Assam. Energy, tourism, and infrastructure development, including the crucial are creating newer and newer avenues for private investment. Support government is a testament to Assam's emerging role in high-tech industries. However, certain challenges do remain. This is where and reforms. And these actually our infrastructure. This panel will delve into these critical issues, exploring foster a thriving private sector in Assam. We are honored to have Mrs. Miyaoka from Imad N. Fakori, the Regional Director for South Asia from the International Finance Corporation, and Dr. DJ Pandian from DG for the New Development Bank, and Ms. from the European Investment Bank. Thank you for your presence, and I look forward to a fruitful.
An overview of current projects in the state and also providing the context of things in the state. Ladies and gentlemen, now it is a time for release of awaited long-term partnership with Assam brochure. So this brochure highlights the significant milestones and achievements of the collaboration between ADB and the state of Assam. It showcases the impactful projects and initiatives that have to the honors, may I welcome on stage the distinguished guests and those who have contributed to this partnership. Let us begin with Honorable Cabinet Minister Srimati Nandita Gorlo Madam, Department of Economic Affairs, Ministry of Finance, Government of India, Ms. Mio Oka, ADB Operations, and Dr. Jeevan Basavaraj, Secretary, External Project Cell, Government of Assam. May I repeat, this brochure highlights the significant milestones and achievements of the collaboration between ADB and it showcases the impactful projects and initiatives that have contributed to the development of Assam. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Seated in the front rows as we move on to our next piece and presentations. Now I would like to welcome Ms. Mio Oka, Country Director, ADB, with nearly 3 decades of professional experience in policy and today, she will highlight Assam's long-term partnership with the ADB and provide valuable insights into region's evolving financial ecosystem. Please welcome Ms. Oka.
Thank you. Honorable Minister, Ms. Gorloza, officials from Government of Assam, and esteemed colleagues from MDB. It is about how we can create a strong and investment-ready state. Assam has already demonstrated remarkable progress, and now is the time to accelerate its next phase of growth, deepening our impact. Sorry about this. Our impact in unlocking opportunity for private sector engagement. The strategic opportunity in Southeast Asia, enriching resources, culture, and economic potential, yet challenges such as infrastructure gaps and the need for skilled workforce have constrained its full potential. Today, Assam stands at turning point. With strong government leadership, the state is taking bold steps to modernize the economy. In driving this next phase, including will continue to play a critical role in creating the right conditions for such investment to thrive. Since 2003, ADB has been a long-standing partner in Assam's development journey, focusing on energy transformation, road connectivity, disaster resilience, urban development, and skills enhancement. These efforts have established a strong foundation for private sector-driven growth, and Assam stands as a powerful case study of how a comprehensive multi-sectoral approach can accelerate private investment. Here is an example. The Brahmaputra River, wide for tourism in the private sector. With state's economic growth through the Assam Urban Infrastructure Program, Northeastern State Investment Program, through expanding access to essential services such as reducing economic losses and business disruptions, improving road connectivity, enabling MSMEs and business to access markets more efficiently. The next is a human capital development. Its greatest asset, and it has been supporting initiative to bridge a skill gap and create a pathway to the employment. The establishment of Assam University, supported by us, is a landmark initiative. So it trained nearly 10,000 young professionals in high-demand sectors. A strong talent pipeline is emerging, supporting job creation. And Assam is becoming a national model for skill setting, as an example to other states. And the skilled workforce in place. In private sector participation. This shift is evident in Assam Solar Project, where ADB is pioneering new models of public-private collaboration. The project was originally planned as a fully public 750 megawatt solar project, exclusively enhancing 250 megawatts of private sector participation alongside 500 megawatt public investment. ADB is also advising on a 250 megawatt solar PPP project in Caribbean, while financing a 25 battery energy storage pilot to support renewable integration. This, for us, marks a fundamental shift. ADB is no longer just financing infrastructure, but actively structuring investment to attract private capital. The road ahead. Is in the best position to accelerate its transition to a private sector-driven economy by strengthening Assam's role as a Northeast economic corridor. In Parashubari with enabling infrastructure and policy support. Second, enhancing transport and logistic connectivity to integrate Assam into regional and global supply chains. MDB in close collaboration with the government of Assam and the private pivotal moment. The first phase of transformation laid a strong foundation, and now we must move into next stage. As MDBs, our commitment is not just working together as knowledge partners, enable investment and long-term allies as a model for other states, demonstrating how a strategic multi-sectoral approach can bring this remarkable growth. With the right policies, investments, and partnerships, as a major powerhouse, but for the entire South Asia. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am, for introducing ADB's involvement in the state in various sectors such as solar, skill development, and flood resilience. Also presenting for the state. Moving forward, Country Director for World Bank. Dr. Kwame holds extensive experience in economic management and development, including the policy sector. Today, Dr. Kwame will be sharing with us some perspectives on potential and opportunities. Let's give a warm welcome to Dr. Kwame.
Honorable Cabinet Minister of the Government of Assam, Honorable Additional Secretary, honorable colleagues, all gathered here, and it is really a pleasure to be here, and I should thank the organizers of this session on their role in stimulating growth in Assam through Assam, what I will be talking about today, and I'll use some slides, but I will also add a few things since we have a bit more time. We're really limited to 10 minutes. I understand we have a bit more time now, but really, those of us in Delhi, we see a bit about how Assam about our partnership, how together we can work to make it happen. So let's look at the Northeast, really, and how Assam is positioned in the Northeast. Assam is really the spinal cord. It is the central. It is super central. So I won't show the map, but you know, it is all, you know, everybody knows that it's the largest state in the Northeast. And it is, in a minute, it's and it has this huge location advantage, which really is, you know, it makes Assam the route, basically, to the rest of the region, the South Asia or Southeast Asia region for India. So, yeah, so, you know, these are some numbers that, you know, until I saw them, I wouldn't even think this, it was so stark that Assam is really the Northeast, essentially. And with, you know, Assam has the largest population, but it has even the largest share of activities, whether it is the share of export firms, whether it's the share of firms participating in global value chain, the Northeast trade with the rest of India. Assam is dominant, really central. And that, to me, what it says is that if the Northeast is going to succeed, you know, what this shows is that tourists will not then if you look at, you know, is driving reforms in the Northeast based on, we work with many states in the Northeast, and I think that Assam is leading in reform in the Northeast. Assam is invest. Assam has created a lot of online services. And we'll want to copy that, you know, and I'll talk about our project which under which was done. What is going on about what the government has bought and when and from whom. Assam is also leading on the reform side, not just on the economic numbers. Has huge opportunities, and I won't dwell on them because all the natural resources. This question, because in terms of GSDP per capita, in terms of income per capita, Assam is more or less at the. So, you know, you ask, if Assam has all these potential that we all know about, why is it not translating into growth? And I think we don't need to answer that question. What we need to know is Assam has been doing very well in the past few years. That's why we because the public sector cannot do it alone in the long term, because at some point resources will be exhausted on the public sector side. So the big question, many colleagues can including my good friend Imad, who will help us understand how the private sector can dwell on this. But for Assam, a lot of resources. It needs significantly improved. But there is a way to go. If you compare Assam to other states that we picked here, Uttarakhand and Himachal, which are also hilly states, they're doing quite well. And I think, Assam could catch up with them. The distance to them is far. We even want to do better than them, given Assam's ambition. The big that is human capital skills. Assam is very committed to that. Through our engagement with them, we know this is an area where they really want to invest. And what this slide tells me is that we're on the right track, because if Assam could close it will be really, really very impactful. And there is a gap to be closed. You can read at the operators, and same for many in India. And this will, of course, help Assam meet its ambition of being Assam could leverage is on the right-hand side, the more that Assam is clearly, ahead in the northeast, but on reforms, Assam, we are that Assam needs to go the north, the northeast. So in a way, reforms, good reforms, more reform in investors will come here because of the scales and the connectivity. We don't want to claim that we have to all these, but we want to think that we can help. So how can we? I think there is room for a strong partnership among MDBs. You heard from my good friend Mio the great work that ADB has been doing here, and clearly this has contributed to some of the results we've seen in Assam. So let me talk a little bit about how we can work together in partnership, and start with what I know about at the World Bank. At the World Bank, we have our engagement in Assam in a big way, almost in a way that is unprecedented in India. From 1977 till recently, we had provided the tune of 730 million. Maybe we kind of forgot that there is work to be done here. in the past few years alone, and our portfolio under implementation is 1 billion. This is much over several decades. And we have a pipeline of projects on which we're working. Now, this is a pipeline. We may not have all these projects approved, but even if half of them were approved, it will increase this 1.1 billion in a very significant way. On the numbers, I think the project that we've been supporting are really promote conditions for higher growth, including in agriculture. And it's easy to think that when we talk private sector, we're talking about manufacturing and services. But agribusiness business is a very important part. Horticulture is very important for some. Tea is very important. The private sector has really caught on and has invested quite a lot. We work on a number of projects also to build resilience and sustainability. We know Assam is surrounded with water, actually, with the Brahmaputra and other water bodies, are an asset for Assam. We're talking about it, for inland water transport. Of the land, with Assam on this resilient aspect of it. And as I said earlier, I'm very proud of the work we've been doing with Assam in the past 6 to 8 years on improving public service delivery. Citizen-centric service and Aspire project, where has India, and we're looking forward to using this lesson to actually work with others in India. We can discuss all these at some point, but this gives us the foundation to strengthen our partnership with others. And as we go forward, one thing that I would really like to is how we can work with the IFC and MIGA, which MIGA is not in the room, but they'll be very interested. To help. I think it's risky. I mean, a few decades ago, it may have been risky that we don't need to discuss here, but Assam is no longer a risky place, really. It's the only thing that private sector will want to know is whether the scale is large enough and whether the connectivities will be there to leverage the position of Assam. So beyond that, I think we can bring financing, and I also like to work with ADB, EIB, on the reform side. Maybe there is something that we have learned in similar countries around the world that we can bring to speed up reform and improve the business environment, which I know Assam is very interested in doing. And I close on, to me, the most important, we know that Assam is very good at attracting financing. If you look at the numbers, in terms of financing, Assam is in its own league. Getting a lot of financing, maybe we'll want more. But I think what we want to bring in the next phase of our engagement is the knowledge side. When I took my job in India 2 years ago, my first state visit was in Assam. It was by a nice trip here. And the then outgoing, the then Chief Secretary Designate said something that really stayed with me. He said, what we really want from you is knowledge, because money comes and goes, but knowledge comes and stays. And I said, wow, I was expecting to hear that from Maharashtra and Gujarat, not from Assam. So Assam is really interested in our knowledge, centrally, very focused. So going forward, how we can use knowledge, how we can engage with Assam to bring global expertise, without financing. I think if we did that with private capital, and I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Dr. Kwame, for that engaging presentation. It provided deep insights into various arenas of growth potential for Assam and opportunities for the private sector. I must say it was a good introduction to Assam for myself as well. Thank you. Moving on, ladies and gentlemen, let us now delve deeper into the topic with our panel discussion. For this, I would like to welcome on stage our esteemed panelists. To begin with, Srimati Sinha, Additional Secretary, Minister of Finance, Government of India. Madam brings with her 30 years of experience. Ms. Yoga, ADB, Country Director. Dr. Agustino Kwame, Country Director, World Bank. Now, I would like to invite on stage Mr. Imad Fakori, Regional Director for South Asia, International Strategy and Operations in the region. Next, I would like to welcome Dr. D.J. Pandian, Director General of the India Office and New Development Bank. Distinguished officer, Dr. Pandian held several key posts, including Chief Secretary of Gujarat and the Vice President at the Asian Infrastructure Bank. Please welcome Dr. Pandian. Finance sector across over 50 countries. Mr. Steidel has been focusing on SMEs and climate finance recently. Well, now I would like to welcome the moderator for this panel discussion, Mr. Nilaya Mitash, ADB's Principal Operations Coordination Specialist. Mr. Mitash, it is important to mention here that conceptualization, development, and implementation of MDB projects now focus on strategy formulation and cross-sectoral collaboration. We are glad to have you, sir. I will now give the stage with our moderator.
Thank you. So it's a rather tough task to moderate a session in a short time that has been given with such esteemed panelists, but I'll try to make that. And is agreeable, and then perhaps when the audience takes is asking the queries. So my first question would be to Ms. Sinha. What have been central projects are already going on from various MDBs and bilateral agencies together. So the question that I would like to and your perspectives on this is to how does the Department of Economic Affairs views the engagement, prioritizes this engagement, and how these engagements in your view create developmental challenges and also creating opportunities to unlock the private sector. Over to you, Ms. Sinha.
Thank you. Let me start by congratulating on excellent investments. Success possible. Thank you all for inviting us all here. I think my very esteemed colleagues on the front have given very extensive details, as has Jeevan, on what has happened. But I just want to add that if this is a triangular relationship. So you have the states on the one side, you have the MDBs on the other side, and on the side you have the EA representing the strategic vision of the Government of India. And it is important because if we were to look at only the two sides, then Assam, Government of Assam would be able to put forward its very they would look at any other client or any other partner, and they would provide a great deal of help as they are providing, both in the realm of developmental financing as well as in the realm of knowledge work. But as we move forward, I think most important thing that we need to see is that Assam is one piece of the larger jigsaw, and we need to make sure that every piece is in the right position for us to achieve what is the vision given to us by Honorable Prime Minister, that is Vikasit Bharat, and India at 2047 as a developed country. And therefore, it is very important that no state falls out of step of that vision, and that is where we are here to boost. We see MDB engagement as one amongst many resources that are available to states. We see them as, we are here to consult with the states and also to offer guidance as to the resources available. We are here to make sure that the scope of each project is high enough, ambitious enough, and we are here to make sure that the MDB is putting but over and above what it should have asked for. That is how we look of the MDBs, and we try and see which MDB offers the greatest value in a particular situation. What is it the state or any other MDB, because we are not getting concessional funding anywhere. We are now getting high cost funding. So it is important for us to see what it is that they are looking at sector financing or cannot get from any other MDB. So that's the value add that we are here to see to. Regarding the second part of your question on the private sector investment, I think here a lot of it again has been laid out. The innovative financial instruments, working with the state, states like Assam are doing a great deal to access the brainstorming in those the role that is left out with MDBs is their ability to reach out to the private sector MDBs to be working on capacities and funding. So that is extremely important. But it is also important for the private sector to see in its global value chain, and it's because the private sector is driven by they look at a cross-country initiative. ADB is working on economic corridors, for example. You're working on doing the same, and so are others. And it is very, very important that you know requires not, it doesn't stop at the borders of Assam. It has to move beyond that. And that is where the convening power of the MDBs is absolutely essential. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Sinha, for clarifying that all the efforts are actually towards a goal, which is the Viksit Bharat goal. Also mentioning that, you know, ADB or World Bank resource or any of these MDB and bilateral resources are only one piece of the overall resource. They're not concessional. They need to be. Also, thanks for clarifying that, you know, you are looking at what exactly. And lastly, also, you know, sort of emphasizing that MDBs have a great role sort of convening and as to how Assam is now emerging as a major center for investment. Thank you for this role, and I do see the very this saw into a proper sort of a shape. So thank you very much for your intervention. May I now move on to Pandian sir? Pandian sir, you know, NDB, could you just throw some light on how NDB is engaging in the state of Assam? What specific projects you're doing in Assam? How they're unlocking the private sector potential of Assam?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And new sort of entity or an organization. You know, along with, you know, World Bank, ADB, and others, have been a long player.
Thank you for putting the right questions to me. Yes.
Yes.
New. That's a known fact. We are just completed 9 years. We are running in the 10th year. We are World Bank. 6 years. World Bank completed more than 75 years. So yes. We are like a grandchild. We are like a grandchild before the granddads and grandmom. Thank you very much. These two banks are very experienced banks. They have huge human resources. They have the knowledge partners. The entire knowledge about the whole world is with in different countries. Different people. Imagine in India itself, they are having more than 600 people, including staff and consultants. Another 1,000 people are working in Chennai. That's different. We are only 4 people. Those things. We are only 4 people. August has invested 1.8 billion. Already committed 800 million. You know, we are not coming with a legacy baggage. We come with fresh, and just like a startup, we can go fast. Our projects we can be faster in approving the project. We can be a little more we follow the country policy, so that is also sometimes very good for many of the states, particularly in northeastern states, struggling to build capacity, and we will be useful. But at the same time, we want to work together with the investment seminar. And our regional head is there, heading IFC, and they're only they are doing fantastic job. They used to struggle to approve 20 million projects. They used to come to DA approving $4 billion for India. It's a huge to IFC. And share your knowledge, and it's investment. projects we are doing. We are doing only mainly to your infrastructure development. Two bridges. One bridge is across the Brahmaputra, which is connecting IIT, Guwahati, AIMS, Guwahati, going to connect IIM, Guwahati. This reduces minutes, 100 minutes, saving in the traveling time. So this is one of the major achievements we are doing it. We are also doing a project, water supply project in the southeast Guwahati region. I think this will provide safe drinking water to many of the households in the city. The quality of life goes up, people think differently. And that creates and we are doing transportation will be solved to some extent. So
Thank you. Definitely NDB has been able to achieve in a very, very, very short time. And thank you for your appeal as grant collaboration. Certainly, collaborating closely with the NDB. That collaborate for the development of Assam and creating already the Pandian sir has complimented the IFC's investment to Mr. Fakori will be IFC has been active in supporting I'll hand it over. So IFC has been very active in supporting private sector in India and has grown quite a bit of. So what are some of the IFC programs and initiatives that have
and it's a pleasure to be in that Assam has. So let me move very quickly into so we work private sector solutions and to scale up private sector interventions. From our perspective, let me just talk Manisha and all the teams there. We have been growing significantly in India. So fiscal year 22, IFC committed in that year new investments of about $1.2 billion. Last year, we actually tripled in this fiscal year, we want to exceed that. And I just want to mention takeoff in terms of private sector solutions across the board, for us to come in and help the private sector actually, or partner with government so we can bring in the private sector in different sectors. Let me what we can do in this regard. A great example I would mention on I know that Additional Secretary Manisha is public resources are scarce. They need to be spent in the most optimal way. And in it, we use them to introduce energy in its early stages. But slowly, once that market is created, we should actually use public resources to finance that. Or we think the value for money is not there, and the affordability aspect and so on. So what I'm saying is, she mentioned clearly in her support the and I'll mention a great example. I was just in Madhya Pradesh 2 days ago, and there story as a World Bank group, actually, where we helped in the solar energy project mobilize 1.4 billion for successive waves of solar energy projects as a World Bank, the World Bank and connectivity infrastructure, and we provided PPP multiple rounds. And the trick there was to bring the public, the private components correctly, prepare the project well, produced the best benchmarking in solar tariffs in India, became the benchmark across at the national level. As it got better and technology prices dropped, and it attracted both international and national investors. This is what I'm saying. We're not a bank, a commercial bank where you can go get finance. Or we come in because there's non-functionality. So we designing projects with the private sector that actually produce development impact, that we measure, we monitor, and we check that it goes well. And we work very hard on making sure we meet the best environmental and social and governance standards in our intervention. So, other ways in Assam, basically in renewable energy, in urban infrastructure, see it in logistics as given the logistical hub and facing east policies of the nicely outlined. We see to come in, structure projects properly, help as maybe and introduce technologies, for example, like hybrid renewable energy, green hydrogen, etc. We're working with the government of India and RBI to introduce innovations like risk share facilities. We can also showcase some of Assam's great successes, help promote that globally in terms of all our platforms. We can scale up as a advisory support, where we help states actually with their capital investment plans, which and structural businesses and for the government and India as a whole, and specifically for that state. We see also great opportunities on the semiconductor. They have great ambitions. They're trying to build that cluster. There are great announcements with some of the leading business houses in India. We very much are willing to financing ancillary companies that would come into that ecosystem, into that cluster, and help think out the cluster and the value chain set up in addition to working with the government of Assam on, right? In Assam was in 1960. We financed a facility. And we financed multiple to continue pushing the access to finance, supporting, the scaling up of financing through microfinance institutions to help on the micro and SME side, and also help some of the investments by private clients that want to do investments specifically in Assam if they meet our investment criteria. Current program today is on MSMEs across the board, and moving as a One World Bank group with the guidance of the EEA into thinking of expanding finances into urban infrastructure in all those categories. So subnational finance is the next wave, I think. Of course, we do investments, both financing and support private sector. We have very high them, how fast India is growing across the board, and the expansion in the space of private institutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fakori. This was a elaborate sort of a description of how it is, sort of, leveraging what the, sovereign side of the World Bank and others are doing. Thank you very much for the explanation of what IFC can do. Of course, the bottom line is that government resources are limited, and therefore, if you want to have impact, the sovereign side have to work together. So that's something which is, a bottom line. And that, there has been a tripling of the investment size in India, which shows not only the commitment which IFC brings, but also the unlocking of the potentialities in India, which is already happening. So, thank you. I see that we have already run out of time. We have exceeded by 5 minutes. So I need to also do my duty as a moderator to keep the time. I would come back to the panelists if some time permits, but let me also, because there are so many people in the audience and they may want to have. I failed in my duty to, as a panelist, to also invite the EIB, Mr. Michael Still. I was bamboozled by the time that has already elapsed. Sorry about that. So EIB India. I would like you to reflect on what specific scope EIB has in India. How does EIB propose to engage in the over to you.
How long are we engaged in India, in Assam? I have to say I'm doubly new here. I myself personally have taken up my position as head of regional representation of the EIB last week. And this is my first trip to proud and enjoyed the hospitality and being very impressed. Also, the EIB is new in Assam. In certain sectors, 90% of them are dedicated as financed metros in 7 cities all over India. About 9 different projects that we're having, many of them with, together with our colleagues from EIB, potentially in the future also with the World Bank. We also run an urban mobility competence center where we have 24 experts that work on with technical assistance providing to these metro building projects, where we actually bring a lot of knowledge from Europe and as Finance Plus, so it's also access to technology and to connections and technical assistance that we bring to support best practices in India. 1.5 billion in renewable energies. We have supported wind and solar. 3 gigawatt of connections for almost 4 million. We investments in India specifically. We work with some Indian banks, and we have 179. What I want to say, we're not only the climate bank, we also call ourselves the EU bank. The EU bank meaning that, that we are owned by the 27 member states of the European Union. That's for one. And our declared objective and goal is to support the implementation of by the European Union. And if you have seen our ambassador, the ambassador of the European Union speaking yesterday, the Act East policy of the Indian government now. So, where can we support? I will not be able to announce specific. Just in general, the 2 areas that I think on one hand look to chains in important. We have talked intensively about that yesterday, for example, in the panel on fragrances and tea. Have a some of our core components. It's supporting infrastructure investment, above all to connectivity. Yeah, connectivity within India, but also very recently doing a lot of investments in Bhutan, working very closely with the government there. We're present in Bangladesh, so activity in terms of electricity connectivity in terms of people is into opportunities that thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Steedle. Most of that has already been built, especially the sort of urban mobility and energy. That's the focus. And thank you for also mentioning to Assam that you are actively looking towards investments in Assam, both in the development of something which, that's a very plus point in terms of your outlook for Assam, and I presume you would be able to develop some very innovative projects in Assam. So thank you for your intervention, and my apologies again for having started at that point of time. So I'm given to understand that we have some more time, and therefore we can take a little more questions from the audience. May I now request if he wants to raise certain queries with the panelists? Yes. You can just use the mic so that.
Thank you. Good afternoon and good evening. So much for that insightful conversation. From that perspective, the question that I'm sort of about to pose is, we've heard radical successes of really the public-private partnership in few sectors in Assam. The larger point is, as Assam moves to phase 2, as Ms. how do you really institutionalize unlocking the private capital, rather than just being a projectized opportunity? And more importantly, how does MDB help Assam create a more integrated framework for unlocking private capital rather than just being at a project level? Thank you. If any one of you can highlight that.
May I request Mr. Imad Fakori to take this question?
Yes. Sorry. So very briefly, I think it's going to take multiple things to do that, right? There is discipline, and what we call in the World Bank Group a cascade approach, meaning if something could be delivered through a private sector solution, then that should be prioritized, as long as it is fiscally affordable, sustainable, offers value for money, and so on, right? So there is an iterative process of starting really with your capital investment plan and figuring out, then scanning systematically at a state level, what are the projects, which ones that this is specific on the infrastructural side, renewable energy, etc. Second, you have with the right institutional capacity. You need the regulatory framework for PPPs, for private sector participation, and that's there within the state capacity to be able to do that. I think one, for example, on cities, if you want a grant component, you have to mobilize 50% private capital. This is where we can come in as MPs, do the public side as well as help mobilize the private side. So the and so on. So I really think it's a holistic approach. All of these elements have to come together, make sure that works, that there's discipline in climate, extreme weather, on the public sector. So in essence, scarce public resources should be really kept for where you wherever you can offload to private sector, as long as you make sure that it is fiscally sustainable, you make sure it's affordable, it offers money, and has the right development impact, is structured properly, transparently, etc. If you do all of that, I think then we can systematically maximize the approach. I would say it deserves credit. And that's not a one-time. This is a continuous improvement process. You need to keep gauging your regulatory frameworks, the doing business requirements. I want to commend them on all their policies, and that's very good. It's that type of institutionalization that I think opens up the space so that the government of Assam actually makes it much more business-friendly for the private
mentioning 60-degree holistic approach and playing its critical role in a very institutionalized manner. So thank you for that.
Sorry, yeah. One last point also, the union budget, and thanks to the Ministry of Finance, and had also promoted very strongly the need to use PPPs across the board. And I want to just flag these types of incentives and national to do that. Apology, I also forgot that.
Thank you very much for the budget has taken major steps in this direction. And of course, the finance ministry is at the centerpiece of all these things. Kindly introduce yourself, and if you want a specific panelist to answer, you could.
My name is Neelam Rani. Thank you very much for the inspiration. I'm Shillong, professor at Indian Institute of Management, Shillong. My question is specifically to Dr. Comey. Apart from the infrastructure, what other measures
I'll give you a very short answer. We can debate, and thanks for at least removing infrastructure from the answer so I can focus on the rest, which will still be a long list. But as I said in my brief presentation, the private sector looks at the capability of the state, right? So Assam has good endowment, natural location, demographics, natural resources. The sector will want to see that they come and invest in Assam. They will have a workforce. In education, the public sector has to do it, at least at the beginning. For skilling, you can bring private sector in at some point to partner and design courses and maybe even deliver the courses. The education part has to be done by the public sector. So, education, and linked to that, health. You need to have a workforce that is healthy. The private sector will look at that. Second, the private sector will look at infrastructure. Connect production centers to consumption centers. The rest in a lot of it can be done through PPPs, but the public sector need to do some. And infrastructure, I don't want us to think only about a road, because when it comes to Assam, that used for transportation also. So, investing in those for as well as long-distance transportation is important. Connectivity also has to do with technology these days. It's not just physical connectivity; it's also digital connectivity. So that is perhaps an aspect that we haven't talked about here. But in today's world, where not all exports are physical exports, some of them are services exports. Assam is investing, for example, or trying to attract a body of investment that will then later on use digital transport means for connectivity. Third, I think private sector will look at the policy environment. It is really important, and we cannot overemphasize that. The policy environment is key. They don't say it. They want to see the face. Whom do they go to? Do they feel safe that they will have a day in court? If they have will they hold them back and they will force them to close? The shared responsibility. It's
And thank you, Mr. Kwame. I think, what he was emphasizing, and let me summarize that, human capital formation, apart from infrastructure, that doesn't mean infrastructure, infrastructure is equally important. Preference to the people at the back, they have been raising their hand.
or various projects in India, abroad, various countries. But when we are talking about climate change as such, so is there any framework about, as in PPP or any where maybe a project? So end to end that we are talking about.
Sure. It's mandatory for us across the MDBs to make sure when we design any project or intervention, whether public or private, that we factor into its design the environmental, social, governance aspects. That we make sure we factored in the mitigation, adaptation, and so on. If we don't approach, this means you can develop project that suddenly, collapses through floods and so on. And that would be costly for the country in few years or something like that. So nice to have, it's a must-have, and this is built end to end from the policy formulation to the design of the project, construction, and then to the maintenance and operations across the board, and so on. So very simply, that is a requirement for everyone, and it builds on India's, climate and national determined contributions plans. And there's, of course, a lot of space that building blocks are being built into it. Financing, green bonds, blue bonds, thematic, that slowly reward investors for doing the right thing, because if you factor the life cycle cost, it becomes actually an investment value cheaper, even though there's a bigger front capex, but that actually over life cycle then gets justified. And these markets, they're going to have and taxonomies that come with that, and India is leading a massive effort now to develop climate taxonomy across the board. We're members and supporting these efforts with the government and so on. So this is an end-to-end holistic approach, parallel tracks that are slowly building all the in that regard.
Thank you, Mr. Corey. Let me take the liberty to also request Pandian sir, because he has worked across, MDBs from the state government. He has worked as chief secretary to a state government. The new development bank which has come up, how much reliance does it take on, the frameworks which the MDBs have, and how much does it rely on request, how
we are a very small membership, member countries, six countries. Our vote is very agile, very small, short, but very active, and they are adding us a lot. Result, it was decided from the beginning itself that some of the perceived negativeness of the legacy banks of World Bank and ADB should be while in the project. Without any conditions, without compromising environment, social or governance standard. Standard we follow, but we follow the country standard. We give importance to the country. We go for the system that even civil work, you should have a international standard. International. Policies we limit to the country's strategy, in the country's policy. We are not going beyond the limit of the country's capacity. That's why we are able to do sometimes some of the project very effectively, very quickly. There is no procurement hassle, there is no ESG hassle, there is no environmental conditionalities too much beyond the limit of the country. So as a result, in that manner, grounded to the reality and all. Bureaucracy is less and all those. I also worked in World Bank. I mean, to the World Bank. It's too much. Agree with me. I don't think we can differ. Bureaucracy is too much. To approve projects of 200 million, it will take more than 24 months. That is 2 years. Whereas in NDP, as soon as I get the DE approval, it's approved. Those things, because it is simultaneously. It is now 10 months. But to deliver a baby, it takes 10 months. But we take 2 months. Not premature delivery. Fully conceived, very good baby will be delivered to you.
So thank you for a very interesting perspective. But also mentioned about the national level and how it is evolving a robust which should be talked about globally. Thank you.
Thank you. So, starting with what because that is the value add that NDB brings to the system, that it follows country systems, it has bureaucracy, it does work much faster. And which is why it's a very important addition to our MDB portfolio. And here, I think as a country, we have a lot of issues, often with the strictness and the rigidity of the ESG standards and other standards that are imposed by the countries, and that is because they are, the word is imposed. It's not a negotiated, and while a certain amount of rigidity is good because it helps all our companies and all our projects come up to a certain standard, it should not become a what happens sometimes. And the interpretation of that is happening. It is a problem for us. More importantly, some of the everything is climate, and it should be, but we also have to look very carefully at what exactly constitutes climate. It's very easy to say, okay, others. And that's where we are working very hard across fields. Get those, get those setting the standards. Some of you have seen the viral video on the COP. This was an impact because it came from her art. She is leading the taxonomy initiative, and therefore you can rest assured it's in very good hands because she has a very strong maybe we have of the on the other banks, all the other banks, we are members, or we are part of the board, but we're not really a member of the EIB at all, and yet their standards are applicable. This is where we really, as project the needs of our project implementing authorities from states and from the private sectors to the and to
is that there are perspectives on on where things are, and that India is very actively engaged in a dialogue. And I think policy certainty will also encourage the private sector, because then they know that this is the what needs to be followed, and then that will encourage the private sector, because policy certainty is extremely for them. So the takeaway from this, I think the question hit the raw nerve somewhere, but nonetheless, this was very important to see the various perspectives. MDB following certain country standards, the MDBs have one set of standards, the EIB pegged to the European standard, but it was very, very important. I have time.
I'm Tanmay Fukan. I'm from Amazon Web Services from Singapore. Yeah, so the question from the what the companies to and we can see our I mean, we are much behind what we have seen been there in Bangalore or in Hyderabad, for that matter, right? So I belong to a SAM, and I have come insight from you.
So this actually, Dr. Jeevan, I think you should be here. Presentation that they were looking at a rather comprehensive public service. One of the I would request Dr. Jeevan to reflect on that. You can first. I will request Dr. Kaur to.
Is on the user side. So the government has decided to use for management, for service delivery, for tracking of service quality, for getting feedback from the users, and for so that's on the user side. It's not on the supply side of digital. I think the question was more on the landscape for Assam to be a place where digital technology is produced. I think, I was joking that you probably have the best answer to your own question because you are Amazon very well, but maybe semiconductor investors. So I think this is a first step. A technology park outside at the World Bank, what we learned is when a state wants to invest in a new technology like this, which requires like land, and I forgot to mention land in my answer to the president. What we do is, the state facilitate the land, provide, the park, and even provide basic infrastructure or a basic infrastructure facility on the site, and then makes it easier for ensure that mention is maybe to temper a bit. Where you have to so Assam will have to decide whether Assam wants to compete with Bangalore or choose another aspect of the technology field where it has a comparative advantage. The theme of this whole event is Advantage Assam. So you want to think of whether advantage, you need to think a bit, you can't invest in everything.
From Assam and coming here on a personal visit because you are interested in making sure that Assam does. Question a little bit to you. Represent Amazon in Singapore. For Assam, what would you need from the government? Or not?
Yeah, that's a good question. Before asking the question, it's a chicken and egg situation. We talk about skill creation for a facility. So I would say, governments, companies come and invest. They say the policies of the government, as you stated correctly, and if it's like a conducive and thirdly, I would say. So they'll look at all these parameters to make sure, they these are the key parameters probably we would check before we start thinking of it. But I'd like to hear from you guys, what
Government of Assam did data policy, second state to have our own data policy, which comprehensively speaks about the way data is managed. And we should speak about the supply side as well at the same time when the policy is being framed. On the supply side, very recently, 2 or 3 MOUs have been signed. I just need to take an update, but 3 MOUs have been signed, I believe, on data center setting up data center. And a lot of companies are showing us setting up a high-density data center which can cater to the requirements of artificial intelligence computing requirements. So that definitely there is a need, and supply is also coming through. In short, that's all I can answer because it's not session relevant for data management. It's an MDB session. So.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Jeevan. I think we're running out of time now, and I would like to close it, but I'll give you the floor for a very short question, and that should be the last question. I'm sorry, we need to close also. The question first. Could you ask your question quickly?
I'm Suraj Agarwal from NJCI, Japan. I'm asking a question to Manisha. Actually, was my project in Assam that we have just completed in Guwahati. Now we are doing sewerage project. Actually, our question is, actually, we always get a loan from ADB, JICA, or World Bank. But we get 80 and 20%. Central share is 80% and 20% is state share. I'm asking one question from the state point of view, that whenever state government invest amount, it goes up to 50% and even more. So is it possible that you provide the central share to up to 100% and rest O&M part, that type of thing can be burden on the state? At least from the government side, but I am asking from the consultant side because we have faced such a thing in the past. Is it possible?
Not really. Let me start, particularly for Assam. Okay, this is a general policy. The reason for following such a policy would be fairly obvious. We need the state governments to have active stakeholding interest in it through their money. Government of India provides 100%. And there is very little incentive for efficient or efficient management of the project on behalf of the state. In the case of Assam, in particular, Assam is what we call a aware of that terminology, which means that the maximum percentage of the loan is actually India, and only 10% is actually
Last question, please. Yeah, quickly.
As you said, it's last. You are talking about different projects and exploring different new areas. So everything is dependent on the economy of the country. So in the recent times, Indian from 8.2.
Discussion was for how the MDB project publication which happens. So those publications.
There's two things. One is what you just said. We do growth every 6 months. So it is available on our website. I will invite you to look at it. We do update them regularly, but what you will see today is our latest. So I will invite you to go. Because you more, it's almost, and I will submit, and maybe this is the third one, and I think this growth forecast should not worry you either, because these rates are high enough to make investments. Barely any growth, and India is less. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for clarifying this. And also pointing out how important. Now I'll request the panelists to be here itself. I would like to formally close the panel discussion. I would request a big hand be given to the panelists for their interactions with you. A big hand to the audience also. May I now hand over to Jyoti. Jyoti.
Panel discussion from all the bankers and all the mechanism, management strategies, also bureaucracies of different banks, and also thresholds and the trajectory that the sector may want to look into. So thank you all for that very engaging panel discussion. Moving onwards, may I now request Ms. Ayushi Jain, Joint Secretary, Finance Department, Government of Assam, to share the vote of thanks.
Esteemed panel, Srimati Country Director, World Bank, Mr. Imaden Fakori, Regional Director for South Asia, IFC, General NDB, and Mr. Michael Stadel, Country Manager, European Investment Bank. For sharing your perspectives and experiences with us today. Growth potential. Specialist MDB for his skillfully guiding the discussion and bringing out the key takeaways from this distinguished panel. A heartfelt thank you for your presence. From IIM Shillong, KPMG, AIIT, significant presence in the session. Collaborative efforts in unlocking new opportunities.
Perspective